but putting those things aside and getting out and serving it does the soul good for sure.
It does. Putting others before ourselves.
That was the evening, and then preparations for this coming weekend are ongoing. So
right. Well, since we got this thing recording, let me go and welcome everybody out to another episode of Saints in the South, because we're going to be talking about that here in a little bit. That's right. We are getting this thing started. We're not playing around because time is of the essence, right? Yeah. So we are full-fledged into hurricane cleanup. We are getting ready to watch for Hurricane Milton to slam into our even further Southern Saints down there in Tampa Bay and Fort Myers and everything and stuff.
So we will have already see how that turns out by the time this episode is released.
That's right. That's right. So Joe was just telling us about some attempts to tarp. So
rain was starting to set in and it was getting dark. It got dark quicker than expected, but so yeah, we got the one tarped, and the other one was already tarped. But then the other crew, there was two crews, and the other crew went out. Well, the first house they went to still had a big tree on it and in it. So they were like, what are we doing? So they went to the next house. It was a kind of a good drive to go to the next house. And it was the same way, big tree still on it and in it. And I think whoever fielded the call was like, well, maybe they could put a tarp over the tree and the house until they can get the tree cut up and stuff. And bless his heart, his brother was like, and we didn't have any chainsaws or anything, so we couldn't really cut the tree down. And I'm like, if it's a big old tree, it's going to take more than two guys and a teenager and one chainsaw. I mean, we had a crew of probably, I don't know, 16 working at one house with a tractor, with several chainsaws, and it took probably at least 3 hours. I was like, there was nothing doing. So anyway.
Is this from efforts from the church or just community?
Yes.
Okay.
No, these are, they were referrals that came in over the past week, but I think it was we had already had the work orders in for this past weekend. But then I think as this Hurricane Milton started to form up and they started forecasting that the area could get rain and some winds, then I think more referrals rushed in. And we're like, hey, we need tarps, and can you do it ASAP? And so they were trying to see if anybody could just go out this evening and try to get any tarps on anything. And so I didn't make a lot of progress on it, but it was kind of, what can you do?
Dang. Yeah, I'm coming across many homes with trees in their living rooms and stuff. Have y'all driven down Central Avenue my way?
Yeah, there's that one house that has a massive tree that just cut through it. I was really surprised. I think I'm guessing it was the angle, like the angle that it hit those trusses. The trusses just are made to take load, vertical load, but this thing cut like diagonally. So it was a bit of a side and top load. So it basically it cut through it like a knife. The one I'm talking about.
That's my claim. That's one of my claims.
Yeah,
out there and handle that thing. That thing's massive, man.
Yeah, I know. I told Link, I saw my son Link, I saw that tree and I was like, that's a big tree. I said, I think I need a new saw, Link. And he was like, another one? So I've got, we ought to do a little side thing and talk about saws and stuff like that. So that's really interesting.
You've got your battery powered chainsaws and everything that are making their way.
Rogue Bishop has one.
I saw that. He was out there cutting some things up there. I've actually got one as well. But the hose in the that feeds the bar chain oil to the blade, I think on the inside has split or something. It leaks bad. And I've been wanting to get a gas powered one, so I went ahead and got a gas powered one as well, a steel. And there's definitely
you stole it.
I stole. That's right.
It was a steal.
It was a steal. That's right. That's right. So we've actually got both. We've got the gas powered and the electric and everything. So
yeah. So the Germans, the German steels. I guess your top 3 brands are going to be Steel, Husqvarna, and Echo. Is what I think most people would say. So yeah. Good on you. Run that that engineered fuel through it. I would say at least your last tank.
Okay.
And do you know if it uses the 40-to-1 or 50-to-1 ratio?
I thought it was just like a 2 to 1, 50%, right? It's 2 gallons of gas. Is that 2 gallons of gas per one of those oil?
One of the deals. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you can run it a little bit on the oily side. Usually when you're breaking it in is what most people will say.
Okay.
But anyway.
There you go.
You're going to learn me something.
Some tips.
Hey, buddy.
Listen, I can get out there and work it, but as far as the intricacies of models and the best way to run them and the best fuel to use and all this stuff, I don't pay. I'm not very good at paying attention to that.
Joe actually taught me how to use it a proper way. So what do you call the little teeth on there, Joe? The butt up to
the dogs.
The dogs, like he actually taught me how to correctly use those before. I'd never correctly used that before. You dig those little dogs into the wood and use that as kind of a fulcrum and just rock it up and down.
You just pivot off of it, especially if you're going to be cutting all day long. It lets the saw do the work. Let the big dog eat.
That's right, man. It was lovely. I was like, heck yeah, this makes it way easier. Average Joe, man, just knows it all, man.
That's right. Average Joe is a little deceiving with that name. I'll tell you that much right now.
We're gonna find something he doesn't know one day. We haven't found it yet.
It's a long list. It's a long list.
We haven't found it.
I will say this briefly on the chainsaw thing. So the Steels are German, the Husqvarnas are Swedish. They both, in my mind, are similarly engineered, and they tend to run. There's, I guess, 2 main schools of thought. Higher RPMs. They run faster, probably about 1,000 RPMs faster than the Echo, especially the Husqvarnas. They're known for just running fast and cutting fast. They both tend to be engineered very well. They run a little bit leaner as part of that running faster, I think. But in my mind, they tend to be a little bit more like you gotta take care of them. So a lot of the professional guys run those. But then they care for them professionally, and they kind of know their saws, they know their ins and outs of it and stuff like that. Whereas the Echo is Japanese engineered, and it's kind of like in my mind, the Japanese cars where they're engineered. So in my mind, it's German engineering versus Japanese engineering, right? German engineering is precision, and when everything works right, it is. I mean, you can't touch them, right? I think their saws are just like the Porsches, but then the Japanese are like, Toyota, we're going to engineer it for a dummy. So then it'll just work and work and work. And so, and that's kind of the route I went. I was like, give me the one that is going to start whenever I want it, anytime, and I think the Steels are kind of in between in my mind. But the Husqvarnas, I tend to hear that can be a bit finicky. Like there's a different starting procedure if they're hot. And to me, I was like, I'm out. If you gotta know how to do it differently when it's hot versus warm versus cold, nah. I just need one I pull on and starts.
Well, that's right. Get and go.
So, and then the Echoes tend to be more torque and less speed on the chain. So if that makes any sense.
Okay.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. So so long story short, we've been doing a lot of cutting. There's been lots and lots of trees down. For those of y'all who don't know, we have been very, very blessed. Every single year during hurricane season, there's everybody's scared to death of whatever hurricane is coming through, and everybody battens down the hatches and gets ready, and then we get nothing. We get there's even people posting on Facebook, like of their plastic lawn chairs in the backyard fell over, like we survived the hurricane, and stuff, and so. Nobody really takes it seriously, or I didn't anyway, I have to admit, because every year it's the same things, year after year after year. They're like, oh no, the hurricane's coming, and then we get a little bit of wind, a little bit of rain, maybe 1 or 2 people get a limb that falls on the roof, maybe get a little damage, it's not that bad. So as far as preparation, my preparation was zero because I'm expecting the same thing that's happened the past 20, 30 years in a row. But no, this was different. This time the wolf actually showed up. And he was the big bad wolf, and he did more damage than we've seen here. I've talked to a lot of older people in Waycross who have lived here, 70, 80 years old, who have lived here their entire lives, who have told me they've never, ever seen anything like this. The amount of destruction we had here was actually unbelievable. The day after, my wife and I were trying to drive through, you couldn't hardly get anywhere. There's trees blocking every road.
That house it was perfect a week ago. This is a road. That's a road right there.
There was, just in my neighborhood alone, there were hundreds and hundreds of trees and, falling in the
power
roads,
lines,
across power lines, on top of people's houses, crushing people's cars. We saw 2 different cars were crushed and just street over from ours. Not a single red light in town. Not a single operational red light. Most of the red lights were not only not working, but most of them were actually gone. And that was weird.
Yeah. And I know that my county, Brantley County, was 100% without power. Like nobody in the county had power at all. So
unless you count priesthood power.
That's right. That's right. Exactly. always got that for sure. Yeah. So yeah, Kenny, I think, I think I got this from my grandfather and my dad, the great Okefenokee Swamp, right, which we are home to.
Yeah.
Vast national refuge, huge swamp. I think it's the largest swamp in the United States. It may be, I don't know if the Everglades.
The one in DC is getting pretty deep.
That's okay. That's good. Okay. All right. So
it's right there. Yeah, I think maybe the Florida Everglades might have it.
I think Everglades might be bigger.
But swamp is definitely one of the largest swamps.
It's one of the largest, but it has seemed to always protect us. Those hurricanes that come up. If it's coming from the Gulf, it'll be pushed further west. If it's coming from the Atlantic, it'll be pushed further north, right? And it kind of push it up the coast. And so we've always had this little bit of protection. But this time, Helene was large enough and fast enough that it just barreled through, and nothing was slowing it down. And it was, I think it was still a Category 2 all the way up through Macon, I think. And then of course it wreaked havoc on the Carolinas and stuff. So
really
so
how many people in Brantley County have power now?
What's that?
Do you know how many people in Brantley County have power?
I think we're 100% now.
Oh, awesome.
I think Okefenokee, our RMC did a great job.
Ware County and Pierce County are still not.
Yeah.
I don't know what the number is, but there's a lot of people in Ware County and Pierce. I have coworkers that are still without power.
Yeah. Yeah. Cause we're all back to school. Is Pierce back to school?
Yeah, we're back to school. Went back yesterday was their first day back.
Okay.
Ware County's not going back to the 21st.
That's right. Yeah. But the other thing is that we are used to grabbing our tents, chainsaws, coolers, wheelbarrows, and heading somewhere, right?
Yep.
This time it was we open up our front doors and all the work's right here, and we had people coming to us. So it was a different experience. I've shared this with my wife. It's been a different experience for me because I was a staff employee for so long, and so I could always just take time off. So like for these storms, and I didn't get involved in cat stuff, and so I could take time off and go and head and go and serve, and cut trees and haul lumber and things like that and tarp roofs. But this time I'm not in that position, and so I'm 100% on the other end where. And she's told me, I said, because I feel bad for not getting out there, and lugging logs around and things like that. She says, look, she reminded me, she says, people want their checks. right?
Yeah.
People want their checks so that they can get their houses put back together. And that's what I'm doing is I'm helping people get their checks as quick as they can. So
as hard as we've been working, like last weekend, oh man. And yeah, Joe's team captain, best team captain ever. Had us out there just slaving away. But man, we got a lot of jobs done. We got a lot of trees cut down off people's houses. A lot of people really appreciative. It was a really good experience.
That's awesome.
And I want to say one thing about that too, that I noticed for quite a while now, for probably the last year or two, I've been feeling really just, I don't know, burned out at work. I've had a bad attitude. And every time I take a vacation, you know, my wife and I go on a cruise and I'll be like, this is what I need, man. I need to get out on a boat for about a week and just relax and I'll get rejuvenated. And then when I come back to work, I'm going to feel good and feel ready to go. And then when I come back to work, I just feel horrible. I'm like, I don't even want to be here, man. I just want to be back out on that boat. But I can tell you this past weekend, working all day Saturday and all day Sunday, first of all, Monday morning, I felt like I got jumped by about 10 guys who beat the snot out of me. I was sore. I'm still sore. I ain't gonna lie, y'all. I'm still sore.
You felt like you've been to Helene back.
That's right. But the point that I want to make here is that for the first time in a long time, when I went back to work Monday, man, I felt good. I felt mentally good, even though my body was sore. I felt mentally, emotionally, and spiritually great. And it made me realize if you're in a funk, if you're feeling burned out, if you're feeling whatever it is, rather than focusing on yourself, focus on others. That's so much more productive. It did so much. This past weekend did so much good for me.
That's a good thought. Glad you shared that. And that's a true thing. That's a true statement right there. And, you know, getting out there and especially rubbing shoulders with each other and getting sweaty with each other, you know, and getting dirty with each other, and just putting in all the full day's work, you know, like that. When it's not something that we normally do when we said, because I'm sure you had stuff at your house that you had, you know, get taken care of, things like that, you know, but putting those things aside and getting out and serving it does the soul good for sure.
It does. Putting others before ourselves. It's because we know that when we are in the service of our fellow man, we are only in the service of our God.
Absolutely.
And just like Jesus taught his apostles, he said, when I was hungry, you fed me. When I was in jail, you visited me. And the apostles and his disciples were confused, and they're like, Master, what are you talking about? When were you hungry? When were you naked? When were you in jail? He said, whatever you've done to the least of these, you've done it unto me. And that's what we did this weekend by serving our fellow man. We were serving our Lord. We were serving our Savior, Jesus Christ, by serving our fellow man. And it's a good feeling.
I think so. One of the thoughts, I was talking to Lincoln, I take him with me a lot of times when I'm allowed to, but he tends to be a little bit ahead. He's got 2 older sisters, and so all the guy stuff is just dumped on him. So like he started a chainsaw for a teenager the other day, and I was like,
yes,
you know. So he was like, I'll start it for you, and they fired it up and handed it off to this teenager to run it.
That's awesome.
But what I was telling him is service like this, physical service, is one of those things where you feel a purpose. And I think it's because it is so simple. There is no gray area. There is no, other things to consider. It is pure service. It is pure love. And service requires sacrifice, whether that's your aching body, it's the time out of your day, whatever. It requires pure sacrifice. And sacrifice is a definition or an example of love, because you're giving You're giving up something for you in order to give something for them. And I think any type of sacrifice, any type of love like that, where you're putting someone else first, it attaches you or brings you closer to your Savior, even if you don't know it. Because I think you can't do that without identifying or feeling an attachment to, or feeling some appreciation for the ultimate sacrifice that he made for all of us. And I think that endears you closer to him anytime you serve someone else, is because you're being more Christ-like in that moment. And I think physical labor, physical sacrifice is just so simple in that way, that you just feel it so much easier, so much faster than many other ways that we serve. I think there's Marcus Aurelius, famous Stoic, said the obstacle is the path. And I think that's what I told Lincoln, is that when there's difficulties facing you, the best thing to do is to face them right back. I was talking with Lincoln about the storm and why we're going out and serving others and stuff. And Marcus Aurelius, a famous Stoic, said the obstacle is the path, meaning that the difficulty that's facing you, you should face it right back. That's the quickest way to accomplish your goals. And there's another saying that I think one of you guys have mentioned before. The goal or achievement you desire most is often found on the other side of the tasks or challenges you are currently trying to avoid. Mm-hmm. And so what I told Lincoln was, if you want normalcy back, if you want your life back, if you want the good old days back, it's just on the other side of that fallen tree. But you're going to have to pick up a chainsaw and get to work. And I think that's a good message for life in general, that the thing you want most is hiding behind the thing you're trying to avoid. So go face up to it and get over it, and then get through it to what you're looking for. And I think if you live life that way, you eventually arrive at the two insurmountable obstacles, death and sin. And that leads you to the Jesus Christ. That leads you to the only way. And I think that's key. And I think that's also part of this thing when you're helping others, when you're overcoming obstacles, that you feel more on that path to finding him and realizing he is the only way to make it.
Yeah, that's one of those points, Joe, that people have understood on a subconscious level for millennia, even if they weren't able to express it that way. That's why so many stories we have are, the stereotypical, the knight who slays the dragon to save the princess, because the princess is the prize. But if you want that prize, there's a whole dragon you got to go through, and it's like, and that dragon is impossible. It's like, there's no way. I'm just a guy and that's a dragon. But the psychological significance of that is exactly what you said, is that the thing that, in order to accomplish what you want the most, you're going to have to be willing to face the biggest obstacles and the things that you want, have the least desire to face.
It's good stuff, man. That's really, really, really good thoughts right there for sure. Very good. Well, until next time, y'all keep on striving. From the side.
Come on.